Hey, what's going on, guys? GFXLab, and this is another episode of Minecraft. I've been watching a lot of prison documentaries, and it's none of it is new to me, because I grew up visiting a lot of my brothers and sisters in jail. It was just a thing that we did. I mean, it's rare that one of my brothers. It's never been the case where all my brothers were out of jail. That's never been the case. One of my brothers has always been in jail. One of my sisters, some of my family's always been in jail, and that's just been how it is for me. And I thought that was normal. I thought that's just like how everyone lived. I thought everyone had family members that go to jail. It wasn't anything weird for me. That was just kind of, my mentality was, yeah, everyone goes to jail. That's just, that's the fate of growing up. You go to jail. And I told one of my friends that. He's like, no, that's not the case. That's far from the case. And that kind of threw me off, because I was like, what are you talking about? Everyone goes to jail. My brothers have all been to jail. Eventually, and I've been to jail as well. Not very long, not like my brothers, but I have been to jail. I'm not a saint. I have been to jail for some really ridiculous stuff, and I always wanted to be the person who who succeeded. That was my goal. And my brothers and my sisters, they all knew that I was different. They all told me every day. They're like, "Hey, you're destined for something better than we have." They're like, you grew up with this, according to them, like I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. And for them, a silver spoon in the mouth is probably average for what you think is growing up normally, which means that I got to enjoy sports and stuff like that. For them, they didn't get to have that luxury. For them, that's luxury, is being able to play sports, which is kind of crazy, because a lot of people would think like that's not really a luxury. That's just kind of that's just what you do when you're growing up, is you get to enjoy sports, and you get the equipment and stuff like that. For me, I never took that for granted, though. I appreciated them for thinking highly of me, and I tried my best to prove them, to prove them right, to prove that I was different. I was better, not better than them, like in an egotistical way, just better, as a family member. And my dad, has always been like my dad has always been the person who was like a model citizen. My mom, he pretty much helped my mom, because my mom, before my dad, she had a very, she was with a very bad person. Like that was her. She was married to a very bad person, and that very bad person is the father to a lot of my brothers and sisters. And that guy is still a scumbag to this day. And I'm not saying that out of rudeness, it's just the truth. And you can't really change him. All he does is drink all day. That's just what he does. My dad, he's a pastor, and my dad stopped being a pastor so that he could provide for me and my brothers, because at one point we got really poor, and my dad, he had to go out and he had to get a job. He had to provide for everybody, even my other brothers and sisters, even though they weren't as supportive. They weren't that supportive to him. But he had to do it anyway, just because he had to take care of all of us. So with that, with that mentality, and with that, growing up with a dad that actually seemed to care about, me and my brother, because me and my little brother, we had the good dad, at least according to my other brothers and sisters. We had the good dad, and there was a lot of, I guess I can just, I guess I don't have to do, okay, that's cool. So me and my little brother, we've always been close. At one point, I think I talked to you guys in another Minecraft episode where I talked about how me and my brother were semi-psychic with each other, because I could feel, where my brother was at all times. Not in a sense of, like, I could feel, like, him as a, like, I could feel his presence, I guess. And I could imagine where he was. I could imagine in my mind, if I thought of, like, where is my brother? If I thought about my brother, I could pinpoint him pretty much. And like, we used to do this in a store. I remember my little brother would go hiding somewhere, and I would go, my mom would be like, hey, where's your little brother? You better go tell him to, we're taking off. So go tell him to get over here so we can, take off and we can go home or whatever. And my brother would be like in some random spot. We never knew where he was, because he was really hyper kid. And I always knew where he was. I didn't need to, we didn't need to go on the intercom and say, like, hey, we need, show up at this spot or whatever, because I could just think about where he was, and I could see where he was. One time there was a point where where, like, my little brother was, he was asleep. He fell asleep. My mom was taking, we were in JCPenney's, and she was buying clothes, and she was trying on clothes. She was, taking her time. So my little brother fell asleep, and he fell asleep in this like, my mom was calling him on the intercom, and she was trying to find him, and he was asleep, and I knew he was asleep. I could feel it. I could feel that he was, it was weird. It's hard to describe, but I felt like he was in a very closed spot. So I started walking around, and in my head, I saw a like a circle or something, and I could feel like where he was. So what I did was I just kept walking around, and then I saw a foot, and he was asleep, like, in the middle of one of these circular hanging, like, there's these circular, like, clothes hangers where they hang clothes that go in a circle, like in a pod, and it's just a display. And I remember just looking under, just the first one I looked under, he was under there, and I was like, hey, we gotta go, they're calling you on the intercom. And he was totally asleep. He was just knocked out asleep. And it was crazy, because this was in, like, a totally random spot in the middle of a store, and there was no way that I would have been able to know where he was. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder about that, but I can't do that anymore. It's not a skill I have anymore with my little brother. It would be cool if it was still like that, but, we've grown apart. It feels like we've grown apart so much that that I can't feel him. And my little brother's, he's in jail, and I imagine, like, I could feel him, I don't think I can't feel, normally I could feel, like, my little brother, and even when we were, like, across states, I could feel, like, what, kind of, if I felt bad, I knew that my brother was feeling a different way. It was felt different than normal, because I would randomly get, like, these anxiety attacks or something, or I'd get random, feelings of depression, and it was always because then I would randomly out of the blue call my little brother, be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, thanks for calling." And then he would, we would talk about what was going on. No one else will talk. My little brother won't talk to anybody else. Nobody. But it was rare that, after a while we got in a fight once, and after that I lost that, that feeling of what was happening with him. I couldn't connect him. And sometimes, like, I think about, those feelings, and it's rare that happens with anybody. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, because it is, to me, it seems like something that you need to be around somebody for a really long time for that, that connection to occur. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have ever had that sort of connection with anybody. But going back to the mentality of prison, the mentality of prison it's a byproduct of being poor. I mean, it's kind of like, actually, it's so effective. Prison is so effective at gaining money that, it is one of, if prisons were to shut down and we were to rehabilitate people, and we're actually going to address the reasons behind crime and actually, like, help people out, the states would not know how to run, they would not know how to survive, how their cities or whatever, how their economies would survive, because so much of the money that gets put into the city comes from prison. So, there would be, if we were to ever, it's kind of like a cure for AIDS or the common cold. Like, if they were to ever release the actual cure for the common cold, they would put a lot of companies out of business, because then, there's a cure. You don't need all this, you wouldn't need all these cough syrups and all that. You would just take you just cure yourself immediately. So they're never going to release the cure for the cold unless somebody makes it and there's a way to profit off it immediately. So same thing with AIDS. They're never going to cure it until, for one, something crazier comes along and it's more profitable, or two, some independent pharmacist goes out and does it and actually releases it. And some people are just so naive. They'll say, like, "Oh, they wouldn't do that." They're it's so funny just listening to those people. They are doing that. They're doing it right now. But going back to the prisoner's mentality, prison is a byproduct of poverty. Like, prison would not exist without poverty, without the monetary system. The monetary system creates stuff like prisons and creates scarcity. Scarcity is the problem to all of our, is the issue to all of our problems. It's the main thing that feeds all of our problems, in modern life, is scarcity. Supply and demand. That's pretty much the fuel behind anything bad that happens, any of the rape, murders, all the crazy stuff that you hear about in the news. It's all because of scarcity. And all my brothers, they're all victims of it. I mean, it's like a trait. It's like a family trait to my family. And I'm not, I'm not innocent to that. I've been to jail, even though I was only there for a little while, very little while. I still understand it. I mean, I've been to prisons enough to visit my brothers. I never actually I never went to prison. I went to jail, but I went to the worst jail in the United States. And it is like, it was bad, but it wasn't. I didn't have to stay there as long as like my brothers, and feel the despair of almost feeling like it's never going away. Some of my brothers, they'll never get out. They'll never be able to see the light of day. I mean, you know, they'll never be able to enjoy like the sun or anything anymore. It's just they're done. They're screwed. It's crazy, but that's the reality of their lives. I always wonder like how it would be if I had a family where everyone was out of jail, or if I grew up in a family that wasn't deprived. Like how would my life be? Would it be different? Would I have would I have been a different person? I don't know. We'll never know. Would I have been able to live as much as I have? Who knows? But what I do know is that there are worse people out there. There's people that are worse off, and my family is not alone. I have family members, like distant family members, that have, they're in prison. They're gonna be in prison forever. I have family. I have brothers and well, not brothers. I have brothers too, but like brothers that are always gonna be in prison, like forever. And I have family members, like distant family members, cousins and stuff that were charged for some ridiculous stuff, and they're never gonna see the light of day. And I've talked to them about it, and they're almost okay with it. They'd rather be in prison. Some of them would rather be in prison just because they're so used to it. Like that's just the life they've got to lead, but they'll never understand like why they shouldn't want to be in prison. They'll never understand it because they'll never get the chance. Some of them were just thrown in like before they were done with high school. I have a friend that I remember he punched one of my teachers, and immediately he got thrown in juvenile, and he's never been out of jail. It's crazy. I remember getting in fights when I was a kid, and I would be afraid to tell like my cousins or my brothers because I didn't know what they were gonna do to these other guys. If I lost a fight, I couldn't tell them because I don't, like they would take the fight too far, or they would turn on me and tell me to man up and why I lost a fight to somebody or something. Like I never knew what was gonna happen. It was really crazy. So I would have fights, and I'd try to cover up as much as I can, just because I didn't want them catching wind of it. But aside from that, there are people out there who have come to my brothers. My brothers all seem to get religious too. Like they turn really religious when they finally like have been in jail for a while. They seem to all somehow turn into religious people. I don't understand that. I don't understand why they would turn religious. I guess it's just something that they teach in prison, is just being religious. There's a lot of priests in there that try to get you to become a religious person, and they'll say that if you become religious, you'll have structure in your life, and they give you all these promises, and it seems so easy for them. That's why they get drawn in for religion, is because it's their only choice, and they feel like if they can do that, then they can have some sort of validity in their life, rather than seeking answers for themselves and making their own decisions, and just living in the moment and making the best decisions out there. And no one ever really told them how to do that. I had to learn that on my own. One of my brothers, he kicked me out of his house. I had nowhere to go because he said that I wasn't religious enough. This was when I was religious. And religion is another thing, it's another product of poverty and scarcity, because when there's no hope out there, people will reach for anything that tells them that that there's hope out there. Especially religion has like this, religion actually has a very powerful way of telling people, of promising a lot of things to people that will never happen, or promising that they have answers. And that's one of my gripes, and that's one of the reasons why I had to leave that mentality, and I had to evolve out of that, and I had to grow up and find out that life is not that easy. You can't explain life that easy. You can't just say what it is, and then and people blindly follow, and it's just that's the prisoner's mentality. Once you get stuck in the prisoner's mentality, what they call it, people in prison, they call it the system. Once you get into the system, you're screwed. That you're going to be in there. You're in there for life. You're a lifer. A lot of people who go to prison once, they go in again. They go in again and again. They go in over and over and over. And, a lot of people don't understand why people are like that. And I understand it because my brothers have all told me about it. You get in, one of my one of my cousins, he actually went back to jail on purpose because he wanted to get his tattoo done. He went up to before he got out of jail, he went and got drunk for a few nights, he got high, and then his parole officer came to pick him up, and he went up and he punched the parole officer in the face just so he could go back and get his tattoo finished. And there's, once you get in there too, going to jail and prison is basically like you're going back in time to when racism and all that was out there. You get exposed to all of the monsters that scarcity provides. Scarcity is the culprit of all the, being poor. Poverty is a byproduct of scarcity, and scarcity is the main reason that everybody, or that most people go to jail, or that most people get doomed into the that poor man mentality. And I am still stuck in the poor man's mentality, and I know it because, like I told you in my last Minecraft video, that I had a someone who was teaching me the ropes on how to be a much better person. And this guy even told me that I was stuck in the poor man's mentality, and that is not being able to make decisions on your own, and being able to not being able to think more positively. You start to think more, you think negatively. You just think that everything is screwed. Everything is, you just automatically assume that people are, you don't trust anyone. You can't trust anyone, because if you trust anyone, that shows that you're weak. And there's all these crazy things that you think about when you grow up in a more poor environment. And once you get stuck in the system, like I told you, and the system is being the system of poverty, and that's your mentality. Growing up, all you see is everybody around you you know, getting drunk, doing drugs, doing whatever they want to do, not being model citizens, then you just grow up that way, and you think that is what life is. That's what growing up is. And you think like, oh well, everyone drags you into it too. Even you don't have to do it yourself. People will drag you in. People will drag you into that mentality, and they'll tell you that like that's the cool thing to do, and peer pressure. It's funny because that peer pressure is like a real, very real thing. Not everyone can handle peer pressure. For one, I got addicted to a lot of things because of peer pressure. I remember like one of my friends, I remember the first time I drank beer. The very first time. It was my friend was like, "Hey man," he's like, we got a 6-pack. We went in and paid this homeless guy to get us some beer. Like we paid him to get us a 6-pack and 2 40s, and we drank that thing. We drank that so fast. Okay, I think I can fix this. We drank it so fast because we were heading back to his house, and we had to be at his house at a certain time. So we like drank that thing. We drank the beer so fast and tried to get it done, just so we could get back in time. And we did. We got back in time, and by then we were already drunk. And then when we got in, my very first experience with beer was not like a controlled, you have a beer with your dad or something. And because my dad, like I said, my dad was religious, so there's no way he would want us to even drink a beer ever. Like my dad would never drink a beer with me ever, because he knows how much it has damaged our family. But it's just crazy, like like the very first time I had a beer, my friend, once we got back to his house, his mom drank. So his mom was like, he asked his mom, he's like, "Mom, let me can I drink some of the blueberry," I think it was blueberry vodka or something. And then she also had I think, what did she have? She had some sort of caramel drink. I don't remember what it was called. Oh, Kahlua. She had Kahlua, and she was like, "Yeah, you can have some, just don't have too much and only have a little bit." And he was like, "Okay, fine." And we went out and we did the same thing. We drank it so fast. We drank it as fast as we could. And it was just that was my first experience with drinking. And I did it as fast as I could. And after that, I was kind of hooked. Every time I could get my hands on some beer, I would do it. Like I remember going to prom, and people were drinking, and someone had a bottle of Sky Blue vodka, and I just I remember they were like, "Oh, I never tasted liquor at that time." And I just took the biggest swig I could, just because everyone else was, taking swigs, and they're like, "Oh, this is so strong," or whatever. And I was like, this isn't bad. And I was like trying to be trying to impress everyone. And that's just what happens. And then you end up growing up, and no one tells you that there's people are having issues, or you see all the issues around you, so you think it's normal. So you think it's normal, then it's okay to drink as much as you want. You don't have any self-control. No one tells you. You don't have, it's just where you grow up and how you grow up. You become a product of your environment. At least that's the idea behind the whole prisoner's mentality, is you're a product of your environment. The moment that you get hooked on, all those things, you get hooked on alcohol or drugs or whatever everyone else is doing, the moment you get hooked on that stuff, you become a product of your environment, and it's really hard to break that. And then, like, as cliche as it is, you really do get, you really do lose a lot of friends, you lose a lot of things, all based on, that one thing, that one mentality. But it's not all that serious, at least not for a lot of people. For me, I used to think it was normal that, drinking and whatnot was kind of and getting high, especially getting high, drinking, and all that stuff was cool. But when you grow up, you get tired of it. You get tired of seeing people like that. You get tired of the one thing that that I hated all the time was seeing my sisters drunk. I didn't care if my brothers were drunk. That's just who they were. But when I saw my sisters, and it wasn't so much them being drunk, it was them seeing their kids like stare at them like, like, what are you doing? It was always like that, and I always hated them for it. Just seeing, the kids like that, and the kids like trying to talk to their mom, and their mom is like, drinking and having fun with their friends, or like they're outside, and my mom's taking care of the kids or whatever, and they're outside like partying it up, like so disrespectful. But that's just what happens. I mean, and it doesn't have to be that way, but I see where it comes from. It comes from poverty, and it comes from being, after me growing up to this point in my life, like I can't live like that ever. I won't live like that, and I refuse. I try to keep myself clear of my family, at least my brothers and sisters. I try and keep myself clear of them, because when when I finally get kids, and when I finally start raising, my own family, I don't want them to continue that cycle. So they're never gonna know, their uncles, and maybe they'll know my little brother, but I won't let them learn about, their uncles and their aunts. I don't care how, I just don't care. I don't care how my brothers and sisters feel about that, but I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to raise them. I'm going to raise them in a different environment than a lot of my other family members grew up in. For me, like, I grew up in that same atmosphere, but the way that I got out of it was I was able to, I think it's just part of my personality. My personality is to always question stuff. Doesn't matter what it is, I always question stuff. I never take, I never like to just take things as they are. I like to question things, and to play the devil's advocate, and a lot of people hate that, but that's kind of the reason why I have my own job, is because I can play that part, and I can do it really well. So I think that I think this is a good place to stop. I've gone on for a while. Maybe I'll continue talking about, the prisoner's mentality, and maybe I'll talk about more of a solution next time. Or maybe I'll talk about how I escaped it in full, or maybe just my mentality. But I think you guys understand my mentality. I've pretty much ran the gamut on what I believe in, and what I've come to mature, like what I've matured to. So let me know what you guys think about what I've said in the comments below, and if you guys gotten this far, say Dragon's Tail in the comments. And I appreciate you guys for checking out my videos. This cathedral's coming out pretty sweet. I started on the main hall already. I don't know what I'll do at the end. Do something cool. But anyways, I hope you guys have an epic day, epic night. See you guys.